Tonight, Theresa May offers the ultimate political sacrifice. Her job for her Brexit deal.
Order! Order! Order!
Even so, lawmakers still can't agree.
People need to comply. This outbreak is serious.
Drastic measures to stop the spread of measles. But is banning unvaccinated kids from public the answer?
The Mueller report was great. No collusion.
But there's much more to the Russia investigation than Trump's headline. We will break it down for you. This is The National. Britain's quest to leave the EU has had a lot of challenges, to put it mildly. There was all that talk about a clean, easy break. Britain rapidly taking back control of its own affairs. Well, forget it. Those illusions have vanished, and tonight, something else may be disappearing. The political future of British Prime Minister Theresa May. She has promised to resign. But as Thomas Dagla tells us, as with everything Brexit, there is a catch.
Embattled and blamed for bungling Brexit, Theresa May finally faced the question today: when will she leave 10 Downing Street for good? Twice failing to get her divorce deal approved, almost nothing has gone her way. So the opposition framed her choice like this:
either listen and change course or go. Which is it to be?
Yep.
The Prime Minister's been here before, with her back against the wall and pitching her deal as the only way to keep Brexit alive.
Other options would lead to delay, to uncertainty, and risk never delivering Brexit.
Except this time, behind closed doors, she made the ultimate offer, telling her Conservative MPs she'll quit once Brexit is delivered, likely by summer. May left the meeting hoping she had finally convinced enough Tories to back her deal. Already, some hardline Brexiters like Jacob Rees-Mogg are warming to it.
And Mrs May's deal is better than not leaving at all.
In another sign of May's weakness, Parliament seized control of the whole Brexit debate.
It's been nearly 3 years since Britain voted to leave the EU, and yet this is the first time that MPs here are given a real say as to what form of Brexit this country wants.
MPs were handed ballots with 8 outcomes, from no deal to a second referendum, asked to vote yes or no to each.
It illustrates, I have to say, a failure of a governmental system that we have ended up coming to such important debates at such an 11th hour and 59th minute.
Order!
Faced with such a critical choice, MPs failed to agree on anything.
I confess I'm not utterly astonished that after one day's debate, no agreement has been reached.
The only option that came close to gaining majority support was to leave the EU but maintain a customs union. It's a move toward a soft Brexit, but still not a final answer.
So no agreement yet on any Brexit plan, but MPs will have yet another chance to vote on their top picks next week, hoping finally for a breakthrough, Adrian.
Okay, so here's the thing, Thomas. Even though I'm someone who follows this, I still find it hard to follow. So can you tell us definitively what is the next event we need to watch for?
Well, Theresa May desperately needs a win, and she could finally get it later this week if indeed she puts her divorce deal to a third vote. Now, you have hardline Brexiters like Boris Johnson saying tonight for the first time that, yes, they will vote in favor of the deal. But at the same time tonight, you have the Democratic Unionists, the Northern Irish party that props up May's minority government. They are vowing to vote against the deal again. Now, she could still squeeze out a victory, but if she doesn't, Brexit could again be delayed past April or the month of May and reconsidered yet again, Adrian.
Okay, I definitely need a chart for this. Thomas in London, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Theresa May's promise to step down if MPs pass her deal really is a major development. This is a politician with a job approval rating right now under 30%. Someone who has survived, in the words of one political author, the most tumultuous premiership in 400 years of British history.
We need to ensure we've got that strong and stable leadership. Strong and stable leadership.
Strong and stable leadership.
In fact, May's leadership has been teetering since the election she called in 2017. Her government barely clung to power, and yet she survived.
What the country needs more than ever is certainty.
May must go! May must go!
For more than 2 years, Brexit triggered uncertainty and strife. Sucked the air out of her domestic agenda, and yet she survived.
Order.
Her Brexit deal was voted down and then voted down again, her own MPs openly calling to oust her.
This is not Brexit. This is a failure of government policy.
I felt it was time for a new leader.
And yet, she survived. Strangely, one source of May's staying power may be Brexit. You see, as long as MPs say no to her divorce deal and yes to her leadership, she's the one who pays the political costs.
I hope she does resign because I think she's a bumbling idiot.
Now, in order to get rid of her, MPs have to own her Brexit too. And so, in a sign of that, late tonight, the high-profile Brexiteer Boris Johnson announced he too will back May's plan, even though it, quote, fills him with pain. So there's so much writing on Friday.
And of course, Adrian will be watching that closely. Meantime, let's turn now to Boeing's bid to try to get their grounded 737 MAX airliners back in the air. U.S. lawmakers had some tough questions today for federal aviation officials about the recent crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia, about the plane's safety features, about whether corners were cut on safety. More than anything, senators wanted to know how the planes were cleared for takeoff and whether changes need to be made on how that gets decided. Our Ellen Morrow explains.
After the most recent crash involving a Boeing plane they certified, it was almost inevitable that FAA officials would be grilled on Capitol Hill.
These crashes and subsequent reports on how the 737 MAX was approved have badly shaken consumer confidence.
Today, the acting head of the agency was criticized for handing over some of the safety certification to Boeing itself.
The FAA decided to do safety on the cheap, which is neither cheap nor safe.
Boeing was also allowed to sell safety features separately, features not included on the doomed Ethiopian Airlines flight or another 737 MAX that crashed off the coast of Indonesia in October.
You think the FAA has the responsibility to tell these airlines that they cannot shortchange safety for profits? Yes or no?
That is our fundamental responsibility.
The FAA also defended its initial decision not to include information about new software known as MCAS in the pilot's manual, software reportedly linked to both crashes.
It isn't just the MCAS. There's quite a few more factors in any investigation that we have to determine.
Earlier in the day, the Transportation Secretary faced questions about whether the FAA and Boeing are simply too close.
These questions, when they arise, if they arise, are troubling because we should have absolute confidence in the regulators that they are certifying properly.
Meanwhile, Boeing tried to restore confidence by announcing a software fix and making a previously optional warning system mandatory.
We're going to do everything that we can do to ensure that accidents like these never happen again.
Those changes, however, still have to be approved by the FAA. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Now, if the FAA does approve Boeing's new software fix for the 737 MAX, what happens next? Well, Boeing would first send that newly approved software to its domestic customers. It would take a few days to install, plus a few more to sort out training and testing, and that's just the U.S. Boeing still has to satisfy international regulators before foreign airlines go through the upgrade process. All in all, it could be 6 to 12 weeks before all the planes are back in the air.
It has been 12 days since a gunman stormed 2 New Zealand mosques and opened fire, killing 50 people, wounding 50 more, and streaming it all live on Facebook. Now, before the attack, and certainly since, the social media giant has been under serious pressure to tackle hate speech, specifically so-called white nationalist talk. And today, as Ioana Roumeliotis explains, Facebook announced it is taking action.
It comes down to shades of hate and acting on them. Facebook had already banned white supremacist content. Now it's blocking expressions like these of white nationalism or separatism. In the blog post, Facebook says it now realizes there is often no distinction. White nationalism and separatism, it says, cannot be meaningfully separated from white supremacy and organized hate groups. Facebook has been wrestling with policing white extremist content since the deadly neo-Nazi rally in Charlottesville in 2017. So-called white nationalists use the world's largest social media platform as an organizing tool. And the company came under fire for its role in the Christchurch mosque attack. The gunman went live on Facebook for several minutes.
I'm thrilled with the new policy.
Anti-hate activists applaud Facebook's move.
Platforms like Facebook and others actually do give oxygen to groups because what they do is they allow them to spread their message. Once that is taken away, that oxygen is sucked back into the atmosphere. They no longer have that oxygen necessary to continue.
Facebook's new ban goes into effect next week and will likely impact plenty of Canadian content too.
Hey everyone, this is a message for Facebook and Instagram.
From openly nationalist personalities and movements that encompass the alt-right. Facebook has already placed restrictions on Ty Hunt's pages, but he says he's not deterred.
I'm not the only one out there. There's other pages that the media is going to shut down too, but that doesn't mean that they're going to stop. Like, people are buying websites. There's other ways to get out there, right?
Experts agree banned content will move to other, albeit smaller platforms. That will make it harder to track, but may be easier to stop. Those searching for it will now be directed to the Life After Hate organization, a support group for former white extremists. Tony McAleer is with the group and expects to be busy.
People are in these early curious stages and wanting to connect with sort of the deeper, darker side of this material. We hope to give them an opportunity to have someone to talk to.
And while hateful content, he says, will still operate in the shadows, the hope is today's move means it will fade there too. Joanna Rumeliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
So as Joanna mentioned, this ban on white nationalist speech and white separatism apparently doesn't come into place for about another week, but Facebook is reacting to the news. So we asked, will this work? Facebook has been pretty effective in banning other types of hateful, extremist content in the past. So we're talking about ISIS propaganda. After the attack in San Bernardino, California, by ISIS sympathizers, after the murder of journalist James Foley in Syria by full-fledged ISIS fighters, Facebook stepped in.
With ISIS, it has been pretty effective, and they've taken really aggressive action there. Even though there's still some ISIS content that can be found on Facebook, you really have to dig.
But so-called white nationalism is more widespread, maybe more difficult to delete.
But what we do know is that Facebook will have trouble enforcing speech around white nationalism and white supremacy that doesn't directly reference those groups, but might speak in euphemisms.
Even if Facebook manages to do this, white nationalist content is on so many other social media platforms.
What we're seeing is that Instagram, WhatsApp groups, YouTube, a whole slew of social media companies are facing similar challenges. What ideally academics would like to see is an eradication of white nationalist, racist, terrorist groups' speech from their platforms, sort of as a cohesive move.
Getting rid of hate speech altogether sounds so good, but that's going to take a huge investment, not just in technology, but so many more moderators around the world. And it is not yet clear how committed social media platforms really are to doing that. White nationalism isn't the only area of its platform Facebook says it's cracking down on. Earlier this month, the social media giant announced steps to reduce the spread of vaccine misinformation on Facebook and Instagram. It sounds like a solid promise, but not all of the offending content has disappeared, which is not at all helpful considering the current resurgence of measles here at home and in the U.S. We've told you about the recent outbreaks in BC, but this year alone, there have also been active cases in parts of Quebec, Ontario, and the Northwest Territories. And the situation is even worse in the U.S., where there are currently 6 jurisdictions facing outbreaks: Illinois, Texas, California, Washington State, and New York City. And now Rockland County, New York, where there are more than 150 cases. So Stephen D'Souza went to Rockland County today, where officials have had to resort to some pretty drastic measures.
The blood work, yes. It's right here.
When the state of emergency was declared north of New York City, Renee Kahan knew she had to do her part.
I felt this was my responsibility. You know, as a citizen living here with this outbreak, I wasn't taking any chances.
Officials say the dramatic step, banning anyone under 18 who is unvaccinated from public places like shops, schools, and restaurants, came after repeated efforts to reach those people met resistance.
We have sent people out from our department into the community to go right to the people's houses, and they've those that do not cooperate, they have slammed the door, they've opened it and said, don't come back.
The focus has fallen on the area's large Orthodox Jewish community. Officials aren't giving an exact figure, but the vast majority of measles cases are here. Officials say the outbreak began in October when an unvaccinated resident visited Israel and contracted the measles. The resident then returned home with the disease. Around that time, 6 other unvaccinated people also visited Israel. All came back with measles. There are now 155 cases in this county alone. Adding to the challenge of reaching this community, official-looking magazines like this, spreading anti-vaccine messages and sowing distrust of the health system and government. This local Jewish leader says rabbis have been trying to counter the anti-vax messages coming through social media and elsewhere.
There is an affirmative commandment to go get themselves vaccinated. You're not allowed to take unreasonable risks with your health, and not getting vaccination is an unreasonable risk.
Officials say the goal of the emergency declaration isn't to arrest people in the streets, it's to send a message. But with only about 35 people taking up their offer of free vaccines today and thousands still unvaccinated, their work is far from over. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Rockland County, New York.
We're watching several other stories on the National tonight, including the latest developments out of Mozambique, where help from Canada has just arrived. This cargo jet sent by the Canadian Red Cross touched down in Beira tonight. It's loaded with supplies for a field hospital set up to treat people affected by Cyclone Idai.
It can do a lot. This hospital is designed to treat 30,000 patients a month. And it's been designed so we can be self-sufficient in order to be able to provide the good services no matter where we're going to be going.
A team of 25 Canadian doctors and other health professionals are also deploying to Mozambique. 5 cases of cholera have now been confirmed in the wake of Idai. And health officials are warning of a second disaster if waterborne diseases spread. In Calgary, the man who owned the truck involved in the Humboldt Broncos crash pleaded guilty to safety infractions. The charges aren't related to the fatal crash in Saskatchewan. They include failing to maintain proper logbooks and a lack of safety programs.
He just wanted to move on, whatever took place, although it's not directly related to that. He wanted to resolve it somehow, didn't want to go to the trial.
Sukhmander Singh was fined $5,000. The driver of the semi that hit the Broncos bus was sentenced last week to 8 years in prison. Jody Wilson-Raybould has submitted new documents about SNC-Lavalin to the Commons Justice Committee. They include a written statement, emails, and text messages. And the former Attorney General is also condemning leaks of confidential information on an appointment to the Supreme Court. She says she is not the source and that the government should consider investigating the leak.
Still ahead on the National, Rahaf Mohammed escaped abuse and intimidation in Saudi Arabia. Susan Ormiston finds some of that has followed her here.
Plus, the surprisingly young cutoff age to be considered too old to work in the ad industry.
And all hail the King and Queen of the North.
He said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "To sit in the throne."
A BC couple wins a worldwide Game of Thrones scavenger hunt in our moment.
Why did Dove ask 6 women with curvy thighs, rounder hips, and pear-shaped bums to try their new firming range?
When Dove launched its Real Beauty campaign using plus-size models, it was considered a game changer. 10 years later, Wells Fargo was hailed for featuring a same-sex couple in a national campaign. By now, advertisers are well aware diversity sells, and we're seeing that reflected more and more on screen and in magazines. But behind the scenes, discrimination is a problem, especially for employees over 40. Ageism is rife in the advertising and communications industry. And as Diane Buckner explains, a growing number of professionals are struggling with how to deal with it.
So their goal was to take on the German brands.
Eric McPherson has been in advertising for 14 years. Nowadays, though, he works part-time from home. He lost his job at an agency last November.
I'm not new to changes of careers.
But at just 44 years old, it seems he's too old to get a new full-time position in the industry.
Most agencies I'm finding is like 35 is kind of the max that you're seeing people, unless they're at the executive level.
Statistics show the majority of employees at advertising, marketing, and public relations agencies, close to 40%, are between the ages of 20 and 30. Only 10% are over 50. Compare that to the Canadian labor force as a whole, where that over 50 group represents 33% of workers.
On occasions, we lose that wonderful wisdom that comes with years of experience in changing marketplaces.
The head of the industry's professional association says often clients are convinced as well that only young people have fresh ideas.
When you get into a conversation about social or digital, the expectation is that if somebody isn't a millennial, they're not a native and they haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
What are you going to say about how you ended up at this stage of your life?
The industry is aware of the problem. This is a support group for people whose careers have come to an abrupt end.
Ageism today is rampant.
There's a waiting list to get in to learn job search tips and how to talk about why you're unemployed.
It's anxiety provoking because you think this work that I knew throughout my career no longer exists for me.
I think that's not the best way to start.
Kara Kay is still employed. She's just 39 years old, but she's already planning ahead.
I'm going to be working for another 25, 30 years. And the industry I was in, I am currently in, I don't see that happening. People get phased out.
You see when you go into service sectors like law and consultancy, actually the grey hairs mean more value.
Eric McPherson believes part of the problem is money, the higher salaries older, more experienced people expect.
I think honestly at the end of the day, it's about cost efficiencies for the agencies. I'm actually looking to move away from advertising. I haven't quite figured out exactly what that is.
A brand new career could be the best idea. Diane Buckner, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
Still ahead on the National, what we know of the Mueller report left plenty of questions. Next, Keith Bogue tries to find answers.
And Rahaf Mohammed changed her fate, but even in Canada, she can't escape criticism.
They look at us, girls who fled the country, as traitors.
You think she's lying?
I won't believe anything until I see evidence.
Susan Ormiston on the threats still facing Saudi women who've left the regime. Here are some of the other stories we're watching tonight. We're learning more about the kidnapping of international student Wan Zhenlu. He emerged last night about 100 kilometers north of where he had been taken. The homeowner who found Lu at the end of his driveway spoke off camera about what happened.
He didn't know where he was. He couldn't see because he didn't have his glasses. He was, part of his hoodie was all taped up in tuck tape. He was very, very shook up. And I calmed him down to the point where I could get him into the house and we could get the police over to my place.
Lu was treated for minor injuries. Police say he was abducted Saturday from the underground parking in his condo in Markham. It's not clear why no ransom or other demands were ever made. 4 suspects are still at large. The estranged wife of former hostage Joshua Boyle testified in an Ottawa court today. Caitlin Coleman is the alleged victim in 17 of the 19 offenses Boyle is facing, charges that include assault with a weapon and forcible confinement. She spoke about the prolonged physical and emotional abuse that she suffered from the time they were held captive in Afghanistan to his arrest after they returned to Canada. Boyle has pleaded not guilty. After a summary of the special counsel's findings were released, Democrats are pushing for the full release of the Mueller report. And today there were fresh signs from the U.S. Attorney General they may not get it.
I'm most concerned that when I asked whether he could commit that the American people and the Congress would see the entire unredacted report and the underlying evidence, he would not make a commitment on that.
The Attorney General, Bill Barr, says he's going over the report and is committed to releasing at least some of it. That process is expected to take weeks. Until then, the Attorney General's summary of the Mueller report, just 3 pages long, leaves a lot of questions. Keith Bogue digs into what we still don't know about a candidate and president who, if nothing else, was surrounded by admitted criminals.
To begin with, why all the lies? Roger Stone is only the most recently accused, among Trump's old friends and advisors, of lying to investigators in Robert Mueller's 34 criminal indictments. Trump's presidential campaign manager, Paul Manafort, is another. He's one of the 7 Trump associates who have been convicted of crimes, as is Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who also implicated Trump in 2 election expense felonies committed after he became president. Many of those convicted, including Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, specifically lied about their contacts with the Russian government or Russian government-connected people. All of that, and what it might tell us about the Trump campaign and presidency, cannot be boiled down to a 3.5-page letter from the Attorney General, William Barr. And yet, since it landed Sunday, that thin letter has been repeatedly and falsely described by some as the Mueller report.
The Mueller report was great. It could not have been better. It said no obstruction, no collusion. It could not have been better.
Most of what the president said there is at best misleading. First, he doesn't know what's in the Mueller report because he hasn't seen it. He's seen only Barr's brief letter describing it. Second, Barr's letter says Mueller did find evidence of obstruction of justice but did not draw a conclusion one way or another. It quotes Mueller that his report does not conclude the president committed a crime. It also does not exonerate him. Third, the word collusion doesn't appear anywhere in Barr's letter. What the letter does say is that Mueller's investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government, despite multiple offers from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. That last part indicates that the Russians were offering help to the Trump campaign repeatedly, and not just at the well-known Trump Tower meeting arranged by Donald Trump Jr. In any case, the Trump campaign denied it all.
She doesn't know if it's the Russians doing the hacking. Maybe there is no hacking, but they always blame Russia.
If you're out there, the Trump campaign's out there saying there is no attack, and you're the Kremlin, you're attacking, but saying publicly, of course, you're not attacking, you have to look at the Trump people as being on your side. They're running interference for you.
David Korn is an MSNBC contributor and the co-author of Russian Roulette, a book that brings some order and insight to the Russian interference in the 2016 election.
To me, the real story that I think has been somewhat put to the side was why and how the Trump campaign aided and abetted the attack by denying it was happening and basically setting them, if not direct, certainly indirect signals that the campaign, the Trump campaign and Trump himself, had no problem with the Russians doing this.
Trump became the Republican nominee in July 2016. That meant he was entitled to classified security and intelligence information. In his first briefing, he was told that the Russians appeared to be behind the hacking of Democratic Party servers and theft of emails. The Trump campaign and the Trump family already knew about Russian efforts to help them from their June meeting at Trump Tower, but they seem not to have shared any of that with the intelligence community.
She has no idea whether it's Russia, China, or anybody else.
I am not quoting myself.
No idea.
I am quoting
Hillary, you have no idea.
That's why I think it's one of the greatest, or if not the greatest, political scandal in American history. And instead, Trump was able to get everybody to focus on the very limited question of whether there was direct collusion or not.
And criminality.
And criminality, that's what he kind of meant. No collusion, no crimes. And he tried to make that the only standard, whether you could nail him in a criminal case of conspiracy.
And then there's the question of obstruction of justice, about which the Mueller report makes no decision. No decision respects Justice Department guidelines that say a sitting president can't be indicted anyway. Nevertheless, Attorney General Barr does make a decision. Along with his deputy, he finds that there isn't sufficient evidence to support a prosecution, even though no such prosecution is allowable. It is a decision with tremendous political value for the president.
You know, I think people are right to look at the whole Barr scenario and have serious questions about it.
The Barr scenario refers to this lengthy memo to the Justice Department Barr wrote months before he was appointed Attorney General. He argued against what he thought might be Mueller's theory of obstruction in the Trump case. Mueller should not be permitted to demand that the president submit to interrogation about alleged obstruction, he said. And Mueller's obstruction theory is fatally misconceived. The memo wound up in the hands of Trump's legal team. In the course of the following months, Trump fired Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who'd recused himself from managing the Russia investigation, and replaced him with Barr, who took charge of it.
It's not good to have a guy handpicked by the president who essentially auditioned for the job by telling the president, I don't believe in obstruction of justice in terms of presidential target, who then gets to make that decision, still on the basis of secret evidence.
Asserting a murky case of obstruction against President Trump could have profound and lasting implications for the office of the presidency. It's not a light decision, but it is also impossible to judge without the evidence. In any case, Republicans seem inclined to accept Barr's letter as the definitive word from Mueller, and to move on to beginning an investigation of Democrats and the justice system to see whether they can establish that the real scandal is in how all this began in the first place. Keith Bogue, CBC News, Washington.
Next on The National, she fled her abusive family and her controlling country. Rahaf Mohammed came to Canada to start a new life, but the potential for her story to inspire others has sparked an online campaign against her.
She's a hero, so they're all looking at her and saying, if she was able to do this, I can do this too.
Susan Ormiston has that story next. But first, in case you missed it, the mystery of the stolen $37 million Picasso painting is now solved. Cracking the case, Arthur Brand, a real-life Indiana Jones of lost art. Seriously, Brand, who runs a consulting agency in the Netherlands, actually is an art detective. He recovered a Byzantine mosaic of St. Mark, Salvador Dali's adolescence painting, and those two bronze horses made for Hitler. Now, this particular painting, the Bust de Femme, vanished 20 years ago from a wealthy Saudi yacht. Brand was tipped off about its possible whereabouts just a few years ago, and then after months of negotiations with intermediaries, the painting went from Amsterdam's criminal underworld to his doorstep. And while Brand did hand the painting over to an insurance company, he didn't actually get a reward. What he got was the chance to enjoy the art. It even matched his couch.
You'll be flying out at the end of next week.
Now, that's a pair of young Saudi sisters who fled their abusive family last September. They're now looking toward their future. Known only as Reem and Rawan, they broke away from a family in Sri Lanka, hoping to get to Australia. They got as far as Hong Kong and then spent months hiding from Saudi authorities. But no longer. They have recently left Hong Kong to begin new lives after being granted asylum by an undisclosed country. Now, their story echoes that of another young Saudi woman, Rahaf Mohammed, who now lives in Canada. Her bid for freedom captured attention around the world 2 months ago. Susan Ormiston has closely followed her journey and the online backlash it sparked. Tonight, she explores how social media, which Mohammed used so effectively to escape, has now been weaponized against her.
A government hug and red roses for Rahaf when she fled Saudi Arabia and ended up in Canada. But going so public exposed the 18-year-old to vicious critiques online, including from this woman, a Canadian.
أول شيء
Foreign Minister Freeland has been looking for someone like you for a long time, and they're using you as a weapon against the state. And all the singing and dancing that they're doing around you, give it a few days and it'll disappear.
Najo came to Canada with her brother when she was 15 from Saudi Arabia. She's a graphic artist and live streams daily to her followers, 2/3 of them men in Saudi. Her video on Rahaf went viral with 4 million views in just a few days.
What awaits you is deceit and regret, and what's coming, oh, you haven't seen anything yet. Even working as a garbage collector will not be suitable for you. Poor you. You're the one that put yourself in this shameful position.
Honestly, all what I was trying to say, like with all means, is that the Saudi woman is not living the kind of life she claims she's living.
You think she's lying?
I won't believe anything until I see evidence. Maybe she was looking for more.
Like what?
Like drinking wine and smoking weed.
Rahaf Mohammed escaped Saudi, holed up in a Bangkok hotel room, and pled her case publicly.
I want asylum.
Granted asylum as soon as she headed for Toronto, she became a target. From the moment she tweeted some wine on the plane to photos of her in a short skirt, her attackers have tried to shame her. Social media, which may have saved her, now savaged her. A fake Rahaf Twitter account claimed she wanted to go back home. She refuted that. Rahaf's own Instagram posts and selfies have been widely recirculated, implying immoral behavior, like from Najo, whose handle is AK-47, and who makes a small stipend from her live streams.
But as a woman that lived in Saudi Arabia, I've seen how it is over there, and I'm sure if my family was abusing me down there and I called 911, they were going to help.
To be perfectly honest, the brainwashing, the indoctrination, women in Saudi Arabia, it's not just their families. The whole entire structure of the society is set up to keep them down, is set up to keep them in. So there's no calling 911. There's no, I mean, it's a farce.
Yasmin Mohammed grew up Muslim in Canada. At 28, she left an abusive marriage and her religion soon after. She's a college educator, but also co-founded a support group online, Hearts and Minds, for people struggling to live within repressive cultures. Many are Saudi women, bound by male guardianship laws, which hand men the power over women's choices. An app helps men to track women, sending them text messages on their movements.
Welcome. Hello, I'm Susan. Rahaf. Here, come and sit. Thank you very much for doing this.
In a rare interview with us, Rahaf Mohammed detailed how male guardianship extended to her.
You mentioned your mother and your brother beating you. What was your father doing? What was his role?
أبوي كان يعني يتحكم في دراستي ووظيفتي الأشياء يعني الحكومية، لكن أخوي في حياتي بشكل عام يعني إيش ألبس، إيش آكل، إيش وين أطلع، مع مين أروح، اللي أخوي أصلاً أكبر مني بسنة.
She also denounced her religion, which fuels the hate.
If a girl wants to take off her hijab, for example, the response would be, why? So that you can sleep around? You want your freedom, like these so-called liberated Western women? And it's all about policing the women. And if there's one woman that's brave enough to speak up, other than the accepted narrative, she'll be attacked. She'll be attacked by the men, and she'll be attacked by the women as well.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, wooed the world last summer by finally granting women driving rights. But inside the kingdom, women activists are being jailed and reportedly tortured. That was Rahaf's fear, where she sent back.
They want to make an example of her because they don't want other girls to copy her. Other girls are feeling motivated by her. She's a hero. So they're all looking at her and saying, if she was able to do this, I can do this too.
This woman, we're calling Sarah, escaped to Canada 7 years ago.
I did see a lot of girls who did run away and they went public and people were just bullying them online.
She still fears for her life and for threats against her family.
They look at us, girls who fled the country, as traitors because we decided to leave home, and nonetheless now, given the fact that Rahaf is getting all that media attention, some people don't like that. So they've created this new department that they call it the Department of Combating Extremism.
Just 3 weeks after Rahaf arrived in Canada, a Saudi ministry issued a new online video.
This is reflecting the girls who are running away. This is the plane and this is their bag.
And then in the other frame?
It will represent the males with guns, basically as terrorists.
So they're saying these are the two problems?
Yes. Basically what they're saying that this new phenomena is basically kind of a terrorism act, and what they're trying to say is those countries who are hosting these people, their main goal is to destroy the Saudi society. And I think the whole idea behind it is, number one, to scare the Saudi youth not to even think about running away.
What would you say to Rahaf if you had an opportunity to speak with her?
I would tell her to work on herself. I understand the fact that she's happy, she was drinking wine, good for you, but at the end, it also, people are using that against you back home.
Back home and here, the online world has no borders.
Do you get any persuasion from people in Saudi Arabia to post what you do, like an influencer?
Really, I don't want to talk about the issue no more because this whole situation is crazy. I know nothing about politics.
Were you threatened?
If I was threatened, yeah, I don't care.
So you've seen how vicious that can be.
I said I don't care. I just said my point of view, and that's it. What more do I want to say?
She is not streaming about politics anymore, favoring rap music and soccer, popular with her followers. As for Rahaf Mohammed, she embraced International Women's Day in Toronto. But she tweets and posts less often now, slipping quietly into her new multicultural city, still vulnerable and trying to figure out a new life. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
So as we mentioned, Susan is one of the few Canadian journalists to sit down with Rahaf Mohammed since she arrived in Canada. So it's really worth watching her full interview. That's on our YouTube channel. Search for it on youtube.com/CBC The National.
Next on The National, it may officially be spring, but one BC couple found winter is coming.
It was just kind of surreal, not what you would expect to be doing on a Tuesday morning, right?
Westeros meets Western Canada in our moment.
Everything you did brought you where you are now.
Game of Thrones is about to enter its 8th and final season on HBO. If you haven't seen it, it's a fantasy drama about two powerful families battling for control over a fictional continent and their seat on the Iron Throne. In an effort to promote the upcoming season, HBO hid 6 replica thrones around the globe and hinted to their whereabouts in videos like this one. Enter Kevin Sharman and his wife Birgit. They're from Tumbler Ridge, BC. That's about a 14-hour drive north of Vancouver. They know the area well, so when a reporter called them asking if they recognized the geography in that video clue, they knew exactly where to look. Their fantastical find is our moment of the day.
He said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "To sit in the throne." And those are the magic words. If I had have said, "Oh, we're just out sightseeing," or, or letting the dog out, or for whatever, he wouldn't have been able to guide us to the throne.
So then these two other guys pop out of this trailer that was parked there, and they've got these long fur-lined robes on, and they guide us over to the throne, and they say, whoever sits here first will be the queen or the king of the ice throne. So I said, Kevin, you go sit. He said, no, you go sit. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. Typical Canadian, right? So I sat in the throne, and one of the guys in these robes kneels in front of me and hands me this crown, which I actually have right here, and puts it on my head. This humongous, super heavy crown, and crowns me queen of the ice throne. We were the first ones there. It was amazing.
I got to pick up this gigantic 5-foot sword and swing that around.
It was just kind of surreal, not what you would expect to be doing on a Tuesday morning, right?
Okay. Firstly, I would like to come and hang out with you, Kevin and Birgit. But also, what I love, my favorite detail about all of this is that they actually hadn't watched the show. Not fans of it, didn't know much about it. They said they were going to start tonight, and I don't know if they know that there are 7 seasons to get through and 1 more to come. What we have learned, though, is that no, you go ahead. Let me think about.
That's a nice tease.
Yeah,
I was going to say, as you know, Tumbler Ridge has had some real challenges. It's a small town built around a coal mine that closed down, and so they're trying to remake themselves as a place where adventurers come to visit. They build themselves as the dream destination for the outdoor enthusiast, and until Monday, you can sit on a throne there if you like.
Well, I thank you for doing some research there, too, because I was pausing to look this up, because the other thrones that have been found were in England, Sweden, Spain, and Brazil, and there's 1 more out there. Clues to come. No, not there.
Not here. No.
That is a national for Wednesday, March 27th. Good night.
Hey.